We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. This was written in the 1920s by the founder of Science of Mind and Spirit, Ernest Holmes. And it's one of my favorite belief statements because I know it to be true. The eternal givingness, loving kindness, and goodness of the one, of the Holy Blessed One, of life itself, of love, however you choose to name this greater reality. When you and I look all around us, that is all we will see if we choose to see it, right? The nature of nature, which is your nature and my nature. This divine flow, this continual giving and receiving, that is life itself. And in this series this month, we are going to dive into the spiritual practice of getting into flow, generosity, which in this moment in time, in this moment in history, is radical and counterculture. Because you, my love, are the place where love shows up in the flow. When you get into the flow through the practice of generosity, you open up all the possibilities that the divine has as you, through you. And this is a beautiful thing. I want to invite you, if you are in the Albuquerque area, to join us on a weekly food outreach that we participate in, an interfaith community of folks who come together led by the Menara Muslim Community Center, where we pack food and take it out to folks in need living on the streets. And you can participate in many ways. You can donate food items that can go out. You can come and help pack. You can be a part of the folks who go and distribute. You can give financially. But this is a sweet, sweet way to give and get in connection, experience joy and belonging through giving. That is one of its promises, this practice of generosity. All right, I want to share today, we're going to talk about generosity in the context of what happens when we practice that intentionally as a way to be in the flow, right? The flow of life itself, the flow of that life force that Clarissa was talking about, that we can all participate in. And when we don't participate in, we see the disconnection that happens, right? When we are disconnected from our own life force, from life force itself. But I wanted to share this idea of almsgiving, which actually is in a ton of faith traditions. Jesus of Nazareth said that when we give alms, your treasure is there, and there also will be your heart. And in one of the Buddhist traditions, there is the practice of monks who have almsgiving bowls, right? They call them alms bowls. And they go out on a daily basis for their nourishment, their physical food nourishment, and the people in the village contribute to their food for the day. And it's a daily practice. And it's a reciprocity that happens between the villagers and the monks because they feed the monks physically and the monks feed them spiritually, right? There's a natural reciprocity that happens. And the reciprocity that Clarissa spoke to in the quote she shared, that there is this, when we are connected to the life force, like the sap of the tree that then is able to be in connection to the very ground where those roots are pulling up nutrients and sending it through the tree, right? And then that branch can create fruit that then is given to who is next, and this incredible circle of flow. And so when we're talking about generosity, many of us get stuck in the idea that we are in this charitable practice, right? That we are doing a giving thing that is for somebody else. And I'm suggesting that your practice of generosity is so that you can get into flow, so that you can regenerate your experience of the natural inhalation and exhalation of life itself. One of the reasons we're going to do Qigong today is so that we can have a felt experience of that. And when we do it with intention, not giving, right, to just be charitable, which is not a bad thing, but I'm suggesting, what if it became a spiritual practice of flow? What if this giving nature of the divine is simply part of a sacred reciprocity that is life itself? But because you and I have gotten disconnected from the sacred in many ways, much of our life has become disconnected from the natural flow of aliveness that is our breath, that is our blood, right? That is the fire. We have these spiritual tools, like generosity, that can help us get re-engaged in the participation of our nature. And when we don't engage or participate in our nature, we see the consequences of that. The illusion of separation is all around, yes? So I want you to think for a moment, can you imagine the giving you may do and the receiving you may do as a way for you to reconnect with your own divinity, as a way for you to plug back into what is the truth of us, a way for you to not just unconsciously inhale and exhale, but to consciously do so. So you can be reminded of what is true about us. Because there is a lot of stuff in the world right now that would have us believe that we are not nature, that we are not inherently belonging to life and each other, that there is a flaw in the design, if you are watching circumstances of the world right now, right? We look at some of our behavior, and it looks as if we have lost our humanity. It looks as if we are no longer able to know ourselves as one species that is a member of a collective aliveness on this planet. And one of the practices you could do to remember is generosity. But in the spirit of flow, give so that you can experience the heart of yourself again, right? We can give our way towards an experience of graciousness. We can unlock the flow of grace in the practice of giving. And one of the ways that I like to think about this almsgiving is just to remember that when I give away, I naturally create space to receive, right? Many of us have done yoga or qigong, like we're going to do today, or practices that ask you to get in touch with your breath, right? And there's a practice, like my yoga teacher often has us do when we're doing pranayama, is we blow out all our air. We blow it out to where we just blow, there's absolutely no more breath. And then we do nothing. And air naturally just comes back in, yeah? It is just a natural, grace-filled thing that we breathe. There's nothing to do. I don't have to earn my breath. But if I empty myself all the way, I can always rely on being filled again. It's just what happens. It is in the emptying that I make the space for the receiving. Right? This is a sacred reciprocity. And what happens when we get into a practice around this giving, this emptying and receiving, and this emptying and receiving, and this emptying and receiving, this giving and this receiving, is we begin to rely on each other the way we rely on our breath. We begin to trust the ground of our belonging in this life. Many of us have been programmed away from trusting each other, forgetting that we belong to one another and that our true wealth and our true safety lies in each other. Right? This is the truth of our nature. This is the design of how the total whole ecosystem that is life itself works. We are inherently dependent on one another. But we aren't often conscious of it. And I think sometimes because of the way we've been programmed and because the way the system and structure of this country in particular works, we actually think that we should shun and move away from dependence. I mean, we have a whole situation out here about codependence, right? We've taught each other that it is just shameful to be dependent. That we have literally made it an illness. You know, we're the only country in the world who has done that, by the way. And yet the truth of nature itself is we are entirely dependent on each other. We are members of a whole, of an ecosystem that only works because everyone participates. The mushrooms participate. The trees participate. The sun and the moon participate. Yes? The soil participates. And this is the sacred reciprocity that is the actual thing that is life itself. And you and I are members of that. We belong to it. And we can count on it. And I need us to be the place where that system can count on us, so that we can consciously participate in our role inside this oneness. We can intentionally be in the exhale and the inhale that is life itself. And we can trust ourselves and each other to be inside this flow and trust that it will always catch us. It will always hold us. It is always the ground of plenty. But it means we have to go against systems and structures that would say otherwise. And that's scary. Right? It is sometimes scary to breathe out all your breath and truly believe that it's coming back. There's so many fables and stories inside cultures and traditions that talk about this fear, particularly in the winter, that somehow the sun isn't going to return, right? We panic. We get anxious. We hold our breath in fear that there's not going to be any more, that there's not enough, that it won't return, that if I give all that I have to give, I will not be returned to in reciprocity. And yet the truth of the divine is infinite and eternal givingness. The truth of creation is ongoing turning of the planet and the seasons. That is an undeniable truth of life. And when we know ourselves as part of it, and when we decide to consciously participate in it, we can relax in faith that we belong to a wholeness, and we can show up as that wholeness. In the Buddhist tradition, the word for giving is dana. And on the eightfold path of liberation, Buddhism, the first step on the path is dana. The first step towards your liberation through the Buddhist teaching is giving. And I believe that's true because you can't get on the path. You can't participate in a liberatory wholeness without the giving, without the emptying, without making room for new possibilities, throwing out what you thought you knew, getting rid of your misbelief and misunderstanding about your own wholeness and nature. Dana is the first step to liberation because it reminds us that we have inherent belonging to life itself. And it helps us turn down the noise that says otherwise. And it allows us to show up in relationship to one another as kinship in this one life. And it's a simple thing. It's a simple thing to simply decide that I am going to generously give. I am going to let go so that I can participate more deeply in this oneness. And when I forget, when I feel graspy and contracted and afraid, and I feel like I want to hoard and save and put aside, I can practice generosity so that I can come back into flow. I've been reading Robin Kimmerer's newer book that came out this year on the service berry, which is a berry bush. And she was sharing as part of the book is that the serviceberry is this great metaphor. The way the serviceberry functions in the forest is this great metaphor for a gift economy, because it grows naturally in a lot of different climates around the world. And it just puts out its berries for anybody who wants, the birds, the people, whoever, right? It gifts itself. And so she was talking about in this way of how we could move culturally into a gift economy, which we talked a little bit about last week, right? But one of the stories she shared was and I'm not going to remember which, it was a Native American tribe. No, it wasn't. It was a South American tribe. And they, somebody in the village caught a really big animal. I don't remember what animal it was, but it had a lot of meat on it, and it was a big catch, right? This was like a super successful hunt. And so immediately got back and started skinning and getting the fire ready to cook up all this meat, and sent out a notice to the community for a party. Like, we're about to eat well, y'all. And so the whole village came and ate. And there was a reporter, I think from the Times, who was there, studying this tribe and learning from them, and said, oh my gosh, why are you not gonna store some of this meat? And the guy said, I'm storing it in the bellies of my neighbors. Yeah. That's what flow is, right? That's how we create wealth and security, is through being in this relationship with life itself, with each other as members of this life. Right? We don't have to drink the Kool-Aid of this ridiculous independence and nuclear family BS. We can actually participate in the truth of life, the truth of nature itself. And any solution we need for the problems we are facing on this planet today lies in that truth and our willingness to participate in it. Be careful.